For centuries, Earth played the part of the underdog. In the galactic commons, humans were seen as clever, unpredictable, but ultimately unthreatening. A minor species from a forgotten edge of the Orion Arm. They were tolerated, even liked for their art, their chaos, their amusing tendency to try. They had technology, yes, but nothing that rivaled the antimatter storms of the Orokath or the temporal weaving of the Drail Consortium. Their ships were fast but loud, crude by galactic standards. Their AIs were intelligent but clumsy, lacking the elegance of the crystalline synthetics of the Zalari mindnet. So humanity smiled. They hosted peace talks. They shared music, theater, and dreams. They won influence without ever firing a shot. And in the shadows they prepared. Upon the vast reach of nothingness, the human fleet appeared like a murmuration of starlings, sleek, black sentinels emerging from the void. Thousands of ships, each a testament to centuries of planning, surged in a synchronized dance. What they lacked in elegance they made up for in unity. It was a spectacle, both wondrous and foreboding. The Galactic Council scrambled to react. Reports skittered across galaxies, frantic and bewildered. How had Earth managed this? The underdog now bared new fangs. Fleets were mobilized. Alliances thought long dormant stirred to life. Within the command ship at the heart of the formation, an understated gray vessel that belied its importance, Lena Markov watched silently from her viewport. Her eyes traced the stars beyond, a dusting of impossible light on velvet black. And she felt an unexpected pang of sorrow for what was to come. She turned back to her crew, their faces lit by shifting displays, their expressions a mix of determination and fear. "Status report," she said, her voice cutting through the low hum of tension. "All systems green," replied Jornsen, her tactical officer a grizzled veteran with iron in his veins. "No hostiles on scope yet." Lena nodded, fingers curled against her palm. She knew it wouldn't last. Not with what was at stake. "We should be within range now," suggested Mailin Wu, from communications, her voice calm as ever despite the chaos unfolding beyond their hull. "Shall I broadcast?" Lena paused. She had played this moment over countless times in her mind, 1,000 outcomes dancing just out of reach, but now that it was here, it felt unreal. "Do it," she said finally. Mylin's hands flew over luminous controls. Across the galactic network, Lena's image appeared, severe but steadfast against the backdrop of distant stars. "This is Commander Markov of Earth's Defense Fleet," she declared, every word deliberate and unflinching. "We have no desire for war, but will not allow further exploitation of our world or people." Her gaze bore into the silence between transmissions as though daring it to respond. On Drail Prime, Zalari Nexus 1, and countless other worlds where protocol dictated calm analysis before any action, her message was met first with disbelief, then with outrage. The reply came minutes later, but felt like days through the anticipation, booming across channels with all the authority 17 billion years could muster. "This aggression will not stand," intoned High Chancellor Byrok Thane of Orokath Dominion. The ancient alien's voice resonated like thunder cracking an endless sky. "Your impudence exceeds your grasp." Lena allowed herself a half-smile that softened too soon into resolve. "Let them think that," she whispered to herself more than anyone else. But Jornsen heard and chuckled grimly. "Just don't let him think it too long." And so it began. The Orokath were first to strike, their ships swelling on scopes like a fever. 100, then 1,000 craft, bursting into human space with the fury of a nova. Antimatter weapons lit up the void, brilliant and deadly. It was chaos and beauty, a storm meant to annihilate. But Earth was ready. "Shields holding," Jornsen barked, his fingers dancing in an old habit across his console, despite the system's automation. The gray command ship shook with the force of the impact, but Lena stood steady, anchored by intention. "Titan formation," she ordered. "Show them efficiency." Her fleet obeyed, weaving through the torrent with improbable precision. They were loud and they were fast, everything the Commons had come to expect, but they were something else now as well, formidable. Where one ship faltered, another filled its place. They moved like birds in flight, instinctive and unyielding. "Return fire," Lena said. The humans unleashed their own salvo. Energy vortices spun from newly perfected solar cores. Technology born in secret from centuries of supposed loose ends and scientific sidetracks. They cut through Orokath starships with staggering efficacy. On Lena's display, red beacons flickered where alien craft met their end. She watched without triumph. "Report," she demanded over the rising din. They watched as Bjornson's grim demeanor began to crack into something more hopeful. "We're pushing them back." Lena nodded, feeling only slightly lighter at this news. This was merely the beginning. She knew what was yet to come. Across light years of space, other fleets rallied to what once seemed an easy cause. Drael battleships blinked from temporal pockets. Zalari constructs unfolded with crystalline splendor. Ships from every corner of the galaxy converged upon humanity's gathered forces like vultures sensing blood. Mylin looked up from her console, eyes catching Lena's with an unexpected spark of bravado that hadn't been there before. "Seems we have their attention." Lena took a moment to breathe it all in, the sensation of being at this center point where history twisted on a single thread, and despite herself, she smiled again. "Then, let's make sure we keep it." "Cargo 7B is secure," Mylin reported. "We're holding steady." Lena's gaze swept over her crew, seeing the determination that mirrored her own. For all their passion, this was their most critical juncture. The assault began with devastating speed. The alien fleets descended like a sweeping aurora, a brilliant net drawing tighter around them. Hume ships held formation even as assaults shattered half their ranks, wave after wave crashing from every angle. Earth's vessels were outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but they fought with ruthless effectiveness. There was no room for mercy. Lena's orders were stark and unsparing. "Focus fire on Zalari sector," she commanded. "Central column needs support." Her crew worked as one, implementing her strategies without hesitation. The starfield exploded into a chaotic ballet of destruction and resilience. 10 million light-years away in the prefect halls of the Galactic Commons, delegates dissected every second of the battlefields in an urgent assembly without parallel. "This is beyond madness," declared Verlogent of the Coluna Eterna, his rings flashing shades of disbelief. "Their chances are none and less than none." "We must not underestimate these humans," countered Everek de Gala of Drael ascendancy. The otherworldly calm of his kin was gone. His feathers were streaked with agitation. "Look how long they have already lasted." Back at the battlefield, the void was littered with wreckage and ghost signals where ships had once been. Lena stood amidst it all, feeling the hum vibrate through her deepest core. An orchestration where life and oblivion played in tight harmony. "Channel patterns breaking on R6, Bjornson called out. "Zalari are regrouping. They're scaling back on antimatter attacks," Mylin added urgently. Lena knew what that meant. They were adapting, using new tactics against her unpredictable forces. It drove home again how little time they had before this advantage slipped away. "They want us chasing shadows," she said strategically. "Do not oblige them." The flagship careened left and under, plowing straight through another storm rather than taking evasive maneuvers expected by their foes. It was a risky move, but one that paid off as human ships enveloped a pocket of Drael cruisers, overwhelming them in rapid strikes that left the sector clear, even if only momentarily. Bjornson gripped his console as turbulence rocked them side to side. He relayed fast updates through clenched teeth and determination. Hull intact, all cargo still accounted for. They fought past exhaustion and uncertainty, pushing further than anyone thought possible until even Lena wondered how long they could hold out against such staggering odds. And then something shifted in her, the rawest clarity that made each breath heavy with consequence. She hesitated only briefly before speaking unthinkable words aloud. "Prepare Weapon Sigma." Jaws dropped around the bridge before snapping into action. "Weapon Sigma," a weapon never meant to be used, was both their secret hope and worst nightmare. Mylin faltered, voice catching in raw fear as she waited for confirmation. Lena. When it came, it was quiet but undeniable. Yes. In hushed reverence or disbelief, her crew responded. Jornsen's fingers flew with grim resolve as Lena felt the weight of her command settle like a mantle meant to crush. She watched the chaos unfold on her display, knowing that this moment would redefine them all. In the Commons Prefect halls, tension peaked as they monitored humanity's desperate maneuver. What is this? Verlo Gent stammered, his confidence wavering in the spotlight of Earth's unpredictable nature. The humans are mad. Everett de Gala stared at the feed with newfound dread, a shiver running through his plumage. Or we're willing to do what we are not. Back on the flagship, preparations proceeded at stretch-thin speed. The weapon's activation protocols spun across screens in an intricate dance. Hands hovered over controls with uncertainty now stained by urgency. They could feel the shift in energy, a low hum turning visceral. Sigma initialized and standing by, Mylin said, the tightness in her voice thawing into inevitability. Lena absorbed each face around her, feeling their fear join with something deeper, something like hope but sharper. A silence stretched before she spoke again. Engage. There was no sound to accompany its release, a white sphere expanding from their axis, so bright it burned absence into everything it touched. It grew with eternal surety, swallowing alien fleets as if they were nothing more than echoes. Reality unraveled at its edges, ships caught within vanished from existence, leaving only empty void where their struggles had been. In that aftermath lingered an eerie calm, the perfect stillness of the unexpected. Weapon Sigma disarmed. Jornsen read off in disbelief as he processed their survival. His gaze met Lena's, words catching between insistence and incredulity. It worked. Lena exhaled thoroughly for what felt like the first time since this began. She steadied herself against all that came next, knew that even this victory would not go unchallenged. We've given them pause, she acknowledged. Now we see how they use it. Her team mobilized to reassess damage and salvage remnant forces, eyes wide with what they'd just witnessed but sharper now, ready for what they'd yet to confront. This was not over. She knew their adversaries too well for false reassurance. The Galactic Commons would rally with new fervor or new fear. Weapons beyond imagining awaited in hidden depths or desperate genius, the same way Earth's most deadly creation once had when they called it peace. This was not over, but neither was it lost, not if they held together long enough for survival to find its way home. With surety born from breaking impossibilities. They continued. The prefect halls buzzed like a nest disturbed, frenetic energy threatening to crack polished calm. Silence. Verlo Gen's voice spilled control across the tumult, though panic licked at its edges. We must understand this threat before engaging further. Everett de Gala shifted his feathers in disbelief, focusing on ancient traditions forced into war. Did we even comprehend what we faced? We need new alliance tactics, immediate reconsideration of our approach. Voices collided, each demanding that common purpose meant had been torn. For the first time in ages, uncertainty held sway over uniformity. They will crush us, one voice broke through, desperation now wearing the Commons' dignified veneer like an ill fit. They intend extermination. No, Everett countered with urgency. He hoped masked his own doubt. They could have, but didn't. The room stilled. His words bore heavy weight and bitter relief. Back on Earth's front, Lena's forces regrouped to glimpse their hard-won reprieve. Dreadnoughts in formation over desolate sector lines where flanking squadrons had barely held. On the bridge, reckoning joined with exhilaration as they took stock. Systems cracked back online with staggering momentum. The lull would not last long enough to breathe easy. Enemy patterns reforming ahead. Jornsen gestured to screens flecked with encroaching blips. Less organized than before. They're adrift. Lena pushed aside weariness like gravity and let it find someone else. Task Scarab Fleets Gamma through Epsilon for immediate counter-response. Passive scattering arrays at maximum. As they responded with alacrity born from near loss, she collected herself, gathered words for when her crew needed more than orders. "What happened out there, what you did," Lena began with rawness, still frayed over disbelief, "was impossible. And you made it reality." Mylin nodded her thanks around silent awe, then sudden breathless realization. It might be months before we face armed conflict again. A fierce letdown turned victorious cut past Lena's defenses, surprisingly sharp with new intentions. It might be never. She saw it reach them. The next inevitable fight downgraded by sheer hope into possibility beyond all military campaigns before. And on a single thread of that impossible optimism soared a transmission. Her heart caught it like wild-born tether. "Breach," she breathed as something wholly unimagined flickered through the static. Then, "Zalari breach confirmed." Mylin relayed steady and sure this time. "Open channels," they're hailing. A shared look passed among them, half entranced by what proficiency had yielded, yet brave in their shared understanding that even when humanity was most ready, there were instants they still couldn't control. Lena answered firm and clear. "This is Earth." The pause between words felt like waiting for creation. Then, "We bring you hope." The bridge hung suspended, time collapsing into the weight of their collective breath. Mylin's voice pulled them back to motion, pinning the atmosphere with tremulous excitement. Constant Zalari channels, repeating. "Feels different mostly." Willing hands and startled resolve fell into place. Pulses of life in every nimble action as Lena spooled orders through a heart unfrozen by disbelief. "Establish multispectrum link-up," she said, chasing awe with urgency. "Direct decryption to my station." She froze mid-sentence as fresh comm bursts scrambled their feeds with unsteady intensity. Reports streamed in, exclamations barely raining wonder. "Signal reception from core Mazima systems. Transmission registering on Io habitats." Lena felt herself pivot from future's edge to this shocking present, a once unthinkable past abruptly remade and redelivered galaxy-wide. "Confirmation from Ceres." Her voice lanced through the growing clamor. "Comms, direct relay paths for all incoming channels, centralize." Even as they carried out her instructions with fevered precision, Lena absorbed torrents of intel with frantic determination to hold it together, to believe that everything was truly alive and intact, where absence had long claimed silent dominion. The bridge reeled close again, huddled in orbit around precious realization. Everywhere they weren't expecting transmission, there it was. Echoes repeated. Stays resounded miles and miles away. Earth's outposts were answering back. Beyond the lattice of new and questioning replies, Lena heard a transmission clear as home. Hope received. Her own words returned across the distance like something meant only for them. A bridge made from more than hands or machines could build. Eyes met hers full of awakening. Lena saw purpose thread through her crew brighter than before. She turned toward Mylin, voice near breaking but unyielding as the strange new truth. It worked. It filled them as worlds kept calling.